Hello. Hello, everybody. This is a new way to do things. So we're still a couple of minutes early. So this is Just Talking. Aisha Adami Magueda, sending my love to you, my darling. She's taking a couple of weeks off. And I'm very excited that I'll be having a guest host next week. And we're going to welcome back Kina. And we've had her on before. And as you know, we have a month and we take a month and we assign it to a topic, right? Something that we're just talking about. And this month, it's very exciting and it's something very personal to me. So this talk, we're doing the May Movement Matters, right? So that's what we're doing this month, and that's what we're starting with today. So I'm just going to see, because actually I'm not too sure about this technology. I don't know if anybody's going to be joining us on Zoom, but I believe we are live on Facebook, I hope. I am not sure if we are or not. So let me just see, make sure that we are. Yeah, so that's where we are. So I'm just, yeah, I think we're okay. I think we're live. I'm not too sure. But either way, this is going to be recorded on Zoom so that we can go through this. So May was going to be movement, right? Because we've just been spending, we started this year off where we were talking about, like, we had death and dying in February. And, we talked about grief and we talked about some of those things around that topic and some of the business of death. And we got into discernment when it came to dealing with emotional situations, because the one led into the other. So after that, we did talk about therapies, right? We talked about my therapeutic journey, how it worked, where it worked well, where it didn't. Aisha shared her story with us as well. And then we had the lovely Victoria Lorient Fabish, who was awesome and really good responses to that. So that was really exciting to have her on the show as well. We got some really good feedback. So how does this end up moving into movement? And it's because, one of the things that I know, and I did talk about it when I was sharing my little journey, is the fact that whatever I talked out of my head, I worked out of my body. I also did touch a little bit on how the body, there's actually a fabulous book called The Body Keeps Score, which talks about how we store stuff in the body. We store stuff in our fascia, which is all over our body, which is sort of like the human internet, if you look at it that way. So why are we talking about movement? We've also just come off, or we're still in the throes of this crazy time where we are asked to stay at home. We are asked to, not necessarily get together with people, but physical activity is welcome. So the thing is, we've just come off winter, and a lot of us don't necessarily go out and move or do things, or, those who are active will once you've got that momentum going, it's easy to stay active. Once you stop that activity, getting that movement started again, especially for us ladies over 50, can be somewhat somewhat interesting. As I've talked about a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, I went out and, like just 2 weeks ago, I went out and I did the physically distanced park cleaning, and on behalf of Earth Day. And I also did this fabulous exercise class by Ben. I'll share his link on the Just Talking page. But what happened with that is we also, I did that one day after the other, and oh my goodness, my body was screaming at me, right? So in my head, just to give you a little bit of my history, if you don't know me, I have been pretty physically active most of my life. I was in gymnastics and tree climbing when I was, a teenager. And when I got into my 20s, I remember the first time I had put on weight. I wasn't fit. I definitely wasn't fit. And I was at the back of an aerobics class. So that was, back when everything matched and Jamie Lee Curtis made us all, she did the whole, standing at the front of the gym thing. I didn't even make it through the warm up. I was huffing and puffing and I was 20, I don't know, 20 something. And I was like, oh my God, like, when did that happen? When did I just get out of this physical stuff? And so I stood at the back of the class, not making it through 10 minutes. And I pointed up to the front and I said, I'm going to be up there one day. And I was within about 8 months. It's not necessarily that I was, I mean, I'm probably close to the biggest I've ever been at this point in my life, but maybe about 10 pounds more, but 10 pounds not nice more. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that in a second. So the thing is that I needed to start moving. So some of the tips that we get about movement, take the stairs instead of the elevator, all those kinds of things. They're really nice. But the first thing that comes with movement is you need to commit to yourself, right? You need to commit to yourself. So that was me at the back of the room where I said, that's what I'm going to do. So let's fast forward. I was super fit. I would teach 2, sometimes 3 aerobics classes a day. No, that's not necessarily healthy. I would do a 14 miles bike ride to and from work on my bicycle. And I was really pretty fit. And then you know what happened? I got a job in the Bahamas. And when I went to the Bahamas, I couldn't exercise in a gym. I couldn't get to a gym. There was some other factors involved there. But, a lot of what we do when we do physical stuff, it's like there's always a goal associated to it. It's like, well, I'm going to get fit. I am going to. So once you get there, depending on how you're doing it, are you doing it because, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and that's going to be where I do my fitness stuff? Or, and this is what we're going to get into now, is I want to start moving, right? I want to start moving. So that means I want to go out dancing again. I want to dance during the commercial breaks. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we have movement, but a lot of the ways that it's shoved down our throats is that it has to be a gym or the Peloton. Oh my God, we see the Peloton and, everybody gets screamed at. Now, let me own my stuff. When I was 20 something and a fitness instructor, they called me the sergeant because I would yell at people, okay, how many? 2 more. And so the great fun with that is that I was able to make sure people were breathing, because a lot of times you're trying to put a lot of moving parts together, especially when you're starting out. You're trying to breathe, you're trying to work your muscles, and you're trying to actually stay engaged with whatever the heck it is that you're doing. So there's a lot of people who have been active all their lives. And they're going to be active no matter what. Like, those are the people that you see out every single day. When I go on my walks, I see there's this Korean couple. There's actually about 3 of them that I've seen over the 16 years that I've lived here and the number of times they've been out in my park. You know what I really love is, and I am putting these culturally, because the one thing we don't do as Canadians is that, like, I also see we have a lot of Eastern Bloc Europeans, and you know what they do after dinner? They go for their walk, and they go for their walk with the whole family. Doesn't matter how old the kids are. Kids can be like young adults, and they all go out together for a walk. So a lot of this is really, it's not just habits, it's also almost ritual, right? So the difference between us doing the Peloton thing and people that always go for walks after, and again, there's, you know what I loved, there was a few years ago, there's these two Italian ladies, I haven't seen them obviously because of COVID, but they had their walker, you know, their walking stick, and they're out, they're not going fast, they're just moving. And that's the part that really matters, is that that's again what they do, is that, well, we go for a walk after dinner, we go for a walk after our lunch, we have a, you know, sometimes they have a family dinner, and maybe they don't do that, but when they're doing it every day on their own, it's a ritual that they do. It's a habit that they get into. So getting back to it, like now we've got like the Peloton and everything's got to be harsh. Well, I'm talking to you over 50. I'm talking to you that once you talk about any kind of menopausal anything getting involved in there, it's actually not necessarily good for us to be running 6 days a week or doing half the stuff I used to do. Add on to that the fact that when I was diagnosed with PTSD or PTSI, post-traumatic stress, one of the things that they now know a lot more about is how it really is about cortisol rushing through your body. So if you have any, you know, if you get, like, if you gain like weight in your neck, or especially under your breasts, where there's no separation, a lot of times that's a hormonal imbalance, right? So what happens with the, hello, welcome, Heather. So, yay. So we've got, oh, we don't, who do we have? So, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Do you want video on or off, or what's the deal with this?
Oh, I don't know. This is like a fly by the seat of your pants part, but so you can do whatever you want. I'm just going to put it in speaker view though, so that oh, I just see you. So I don't know how this is going to record here because I'm recording on this side. So either way, it doesn't matter. So I was just getting into the fact about when we're over 50, that sometimes there can be hormonal situations and ways that we can tell in our body. Because the one thing, being pretty fit most of my life, I started when I had the post-traumatic diagnosis. I knew something was wrong in my body before that, but I gained weight around my neck. And it's very unusual. This is not where you should be gaining weight. Because let's look at the fact. One reason why I got bigger is because here used to be muscle. It was tighter. It was more condensed. So when I stopped using this, it just relaxes and gets bigger. So that's normal to see, you know, to see the muscle relax. And you want to be able to, you know, like before this was all toned and now it's not. But especially too, and this is stuff that I learned as I went along. So I gained weight in my neck and I gained weight just underneath my breasts. And so I want you to, because, you know, part of what it is too is we as women, we look at this beauty stuff, but it's not about how is our body functioning the best for us? How is that? How are we taking care of ourselves? How is it that we need to view ourselves? And so I really appreciate Jenny because she answered one of my discussion questions around this. And it was about the fact that every time when we set a physical goal, it's a goal. So it's not an intention to move. It's a goal. I want to lose weight. I want to run a 5K. I want to fit into my dress. I want to look good for this party. So, and so it's not necessarily saying, what is it about me? What do I want to do with this body? how do I want to treat this? So then we get into all this, the buzz talk now, which is all about self-care and self-love and all that. So what I want to start with now is right off. And now we have Heather, so you get to do the homework right now. And that is basically, if I asked you right now, because the first topic is why does movement matter? And why does it matter to you? Because you know that if we don't have a clear intention, not a goal, a clear intention that this thing matters to me, matters. If it doesn't matter, you're never going to do it. If it doesn't matter to you, it's also always going to be a task. And whether or not you enjoy that process is going to make a huge difference in how you look at movement. So I want you to just take right now, just like 2 minutes, a minute, and I'll just hum in the middle and just write down. And I'm doing this with you because let me just put in this part here too. I love being of service to other people. And that's why I came up with this is, this post-traumatic stress got in the way. I went from being pretty damn fit to nothing. And not only that, I had somebody say, well, you've got to learn to stroll. And it's like, stroll? What do you mean I'm not doing kettlebell every day? What do you mean I'm not running, an hour a day? What do you mean? And that was just like foreign, like you might as well have been speaking Martian to me. Okay. So I had to actually instead of starting, I had to stop. I had to stop everything I was doing. I had to stop the way I was thinking. And I had to begin again with a new frame of mind. So all that being said, we're coming into spring. We're coming into summer. I want you to be able to enjoy life as you want to enjoy it in summer. And to my cousins and people in Australia, you're just going into fall. It's not like you get snow, but still it gets a little colder. So let's just take a couple of minutes and write down our why. If I asked you right now, why does movement matter to you? And whatever that answer is, just jot it down. Or why, what is your why factor? Is it because you want to get fit? What made you show up today? Is it because you want to just learn? You have nothing to do on a Sunday night? Whatever it is. So just take a moment to write that down. And I'm going to be walking through this with you, right? Because I have oodles of random information and I want to be able to help all of us get moving. Let's get physical. Okay, I'm just going to hum a little bit while I write down here. Da, 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 da. Do, 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 do. I'm sorry, I've been listening to the Carpenters a lot lately. We've only just begun. Do, do. Do, do. Do, do. Do. So again, we're just asking, what's your why factor? So okay. Do. So do you have your answers? I feel like I should be doing da, 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 da. So I did this through the event. So it's like it's not doing things that I normally do when I'm filming this. So Heather, did you want to share or no? That's fine.
Sure, I'll share a couple of them. So I want to travel, and I find at the moment, certainly I'm getting better in the past year or so, but just going to the store, to the you know, being out for an hour and that's my limit, right? But I want to be able to travel and to tour and to walk and to, you know, that kind of thing, right? And I want to be able to do it and not feel like I can only go visit someplace and, you know, get in an hour of visiting and then I got to go have a nap. So I want to be fit enough to do that. So
Perfect. And that's amazing. That's because this brings up exactly the first point is this has to do with how you want to live your life, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that is key. You don't need to do Peloton. As I mentioned just briefly before, once you're over 50 and into menopause, you shouldn't be doing high endurance stuff. It's not good for your hormones. It's not good for your body. There is a guy, Jade Teta, and he does the metabolic reset. So if you are going to do any HIIT stuff, which is high intensity interval
interval
training,
training.
he's a guy that you want to look at. He's got a program. And again, it's these 16 minutes mini workouts, but we're going to get into that. That's not what we're talking about today. Because giving you the mechanics of what you're doing and how to do it a little bit better, that's going to be part of the challenge, which is going to be over the month of May. But the important thing is, and Heather, I love what you have here, is that it's about stamina. You know, we are going to be able to open up. We are going to be able to take trips. So you're right. I don't know how many of us are just going to go somewhere and just go to the beach and stay there. That's okay too. If I go somewhere where there's an ocean, I need to swim every day.
Yeah.
I have a pool out behind, and again, one of the reasons I live where I live is because I'm next to a park that is my gym, and that's why I love walking there every day. And the pool in the back is an outdoor pool, so I love to get my vitamin D, but I love doing laps, right? And the other thing that I love is, and this is because I've had it before, is I like the endurance, and that's the stamina that you were talking about, Heather.
Yeah.
Like when I used to run half marathons, me and my running partner, our perfect day, we got up, we went down to the lake shore, we ran for 2 hours, no, an hour and a half. Then we went and did an hour of kettlebell. And then we went for this huge breakfast. So, and that was amazing. So, one of the things that I heard that Jenny mentioned in her comment was, well, I've never been this athletic person. I've never been, blah, blah, blah. And part of that is because that's how we're framed. That's how we're framed to look at movement, is that we look at it as this is, again, as I said, goal related, right? And so the one thing that she mentioned is, that she's never had the mythical endorphin release after a hard workout. And I have to agree that, I used to, like, when I was paddling, we would do, like, again, 2.5 hours on Sunday, 2.5 hours on Saturday, at least an hour and a half every single morning. I would work out and I loved it. I don't even know about the endorphin, but this is what I will tell you. And so this is why I really want you to be able to take time, even if you're watching this on replay, and contact me if you want. Take time, sit there with the hand on your heart and go, do I really want to go run? Nah, then don't, right? Do you like dancing? Did you like dancing? Right? And I know I'm talking to Heather here, who's got past of various forms, belly dancing, right? Now, belly dancing, if you've ever seen belly dancers, there's nothing about them that's hardcore, super fit. That's not necessarily a standard of beauty. And if you're doing it because of what looks on the outside, then you're going to be getting away from the reason, your why factor. And that is, how do I feel? How do I feel? Like, if you don't mind, because Heather, you're here. When you're belly dancing, don't you feel sexy as hell? Like,
oh yeah, it certainly did, and it didn't matter what size you were. So yeah,
right. Yeah. So Shakira can do it really well, but some of the best belly dancers that you see, they've got hips, and they're not. And the person I studied belly dancing with, and it's not studied, it's not like I was like doing it all the time. She was like a football player, and all she did was belly dancing. So you can have both ends of, and a lot of that is because our body does whatever it's supposed to do, but we got to be able to love this body. And so this body and your why factor. Well, one of the things that was mentioned here is that, oh, I want to be able to take care of my body while I'm, for when I'm getting older. Because we're also in the last, I know if you may or may not have had this awareness, but we're probably in the last third of our lives. And especially for us women, if we've had no upper body strength, bone density matters. Flexibility matters more than endurance, actually, at this point, right? So, do you want to have it like, again, just recently, I had a huge fall where I slipped right down on that lovely little ice that we had a while back. And if I had not started movement or been doing, and by movement, it's like I go walking every day. Now I go walking every day. So, and now let's slip into the second part of today, which is how do we do this, right? So once we get our why, it's how do we do this? The most important thing is that we need to be able to look at this not as a task. Because what do we do with tasks? We have them on this list and it's crap, right? And if you don't, and you all know it. If we're not really into it, we're not going to do it. So when do I go for my walk? I go for it first thing in the morning. The beginning, and this is what stuff that we're going to get into like next week when in how this is split up, because the body, there's synovial fluids. I don't know if you know about all this stuff. This would be like anatomy or people that have done kinesiology, especially in your hips. Ladies, we get up, our hips are tight. We wake up in the morning and it's like, oh. But once you start walking, I like doing what I call the Soka walk. And this is just in my little mind, because in Soka, we move our hips. In belly dancing, everything's a figure 8. So when we're out for our walk, we can do a little sexy thing, but it's also about, at the beginning, don't go super fast. Don't go like you're, I got to go out and keep a 5 mile an hour pace. You're going to go out and do a stroll. Okay. And then as you're doing that stroll, if you can imagine your hips going in a figure 8, and if you don't know what that feels like, just go for a walk and just focus on your hip joints, and then just move them. And as you walk, and you may not know what I'm talking about, because what this is going to be about is getting into your body and knowing how your body moves and knowing how it feels, and knowing the other part is, especially like you start doing this little Soka walk at the beginning, your hips are like, I go walk for 30 minutes. I feel it in my hips. I feel it maybe in my shins. I feel it even in the bottom of my feet, right? Plantar fasciitis. One of the things that I used to listen to people that would go running all the time, they go out, la, 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 and then shin splints, they can't run, and it can damage you. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we can really damage ourselves. So we have to first start with, okay, beautiful body, I want to know when you're yelling at me to stop, and when you're just going, oh, I haven't done this. What's this? And that's so huge, right? So this Soka walk, or even if you go for a walk and you do like a little figure 8, so lead with one hip and go to the other. We'll show more next week, because this is just an example. Because every day that you go out for that walk, start with 30 minutes, start with 20 minutes, start with anything. First, you commit to movement. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be walking out in the hallway. It can go up and down your stairs. Hopefully it's going outdoors somewhere at this point, because we are stuck inside a lot, and we are allowed to do this. And it's everybody's happy about it. Just don't get next to each other. And then try to feel out what that feels like with your little hip joints. That it's like, imagine that the end of your hips are going around in little figure 8s. I'll do a little video on this actually, because this is, again, something small, because at the beginning, I want to make sure that I'm moving my hips forward and back and up and down. Why is that? Because I want it to feel comfortable. I want it to start relaxing. And within a week, I don't feel my hips anymore. So this is the part. We're going to do 4 weeks. We're going to do 4 weeks in May. And how we're going to do it is we are actually going to get into our bodies. We're going to get into, there's a difference. As you said, Heather, you're not interested in endurance. You don't want to run, a half marathon, but you do want to be able to walk for the whole day.
Right.
So this is number 1, it's starting with our muscles. Number 2, it's our heart and making sure that our heart can keep up with us. And number 3 is our lungs. And part of why I split it into those 3 different areas is because the other thing that we don't necessarily like, and this is exactly what Jenny said. I mean, this is a perfect response, Jenny. Love you, love you, love you. But it's like, setting long-term goals. See, this is not a long-term goal. It's like, I want to be physical because, Jenny, I want to be able to play with my granddaughter. I want to be able to, one of the things that broke my mom's heart is my youngest niece. My mom could not pick her up because my mom weighed 100 pounds soaking wet. So it's up to us to keep up that strength, because it's going to be harder and harder as we move forward. So, so when we get into the how, it's like we're really going to get into what is movement to you. It can be dancing at commercial breaks. It can be a 15-minute walk. Like, how many, you love dancing, right? You know what I love is La La Land. I do like little box step around my living room sometimes. Well, actually, it doesn't matter what music, I dance to it. But now I'm up to where I do an hour a day walk outside. So this matters. Like, and now the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to start running now, because at this hormonal point, we can also do these, like I do have the metabolic reset, which is a 16-minute workout, which is done 3 times a week. That's it. So at no point is this about, and you won't hear me saying, this isn't about losing weight. This isn't about anything that's an outward focus. This is going to be about us saying, and I'm going to share all my knowledge. So again, if you don't know, I was like a competitive paddler for years. Gymnastics, I used to run half marathons. I've done a whole bunch of stuff. And here's the thing, the reason I do this is I cannot live without being physical. I cannot do that. Doesn't matter if I'm athletic or not. I mean, it started with climbing trees. So it's not like we're going to climb trees, but let's take up dancing. Let's do, like, what is it that you enjoy doing when it comes to movement? And here's the other thing. If you don't want to, then also say, okay, I'm never going to do this again. And that's okay too, right? The funniest thing is if I ask you the people that you feel are the most happiest, they don't really care what you think of what they look like. They don't really care about any of that. And in fact, you probably like it when people they're just them. And it's like, yeah, so take it or leave it. And so even in, 50 plus, we can still have these issues. As a matter of fact, I think life starts at 50 because we care less, and seriously, we care less. And just on the side of, the stages in a woman's life is we have the maiden, the mother, and the crone, right? In Celtic lore, which is the Druid in me. And so there's actually a croning where it's like, okay, you know what? I want to have long flowing gray hair with a flowy skirt, and I want to dance wild. Oh, do it. And that's what the movement is all about, is what brings joy to your heart. Now for the practical stuff. The more we move, the better we sleep. I have just spent literally the better part of 7 years trying to get my sleep back. Now I do an average of 6 to 8 hours a night, with 3 of those being deep sleep. if you have a Fitbit or anything like that, they're really good to track the amount of deep sleep. If you're not sleeping well, I did mention previously, if you gain fat around your neck, under your breast, especially if you're a large lady, our breasts, there should always be a little flat part between our breasts and our belly. No matter, and if we don't have that little part and our belly becomes support for our breasts, then that can mean and probably does mean that there's a hormonal imbalance. I go to a naturopath who has this biometric machine, which has helped me get, all of my hormones. And again, the post-traumatic stress was a big contributor to this, right? Because my cortisol was pumping out for years until it started like not pumping at all. So I've spent 7 years sleeping, getting to the point where I can sleep. Your brain works better. You can actually get more creative. Life Starts Now is the name of my company because every single day we have a choice. Every single moment we have a choice to say, my life is now. I'm going to show up. And it's up to you to say how I'm going to show up. So what do you think of this so far, Heather?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It certainly hits all the points for me, because that's the key, right? It's the reminding yourself that it's not about a goal, it's about a intention, about a lifestyle, right? It's not I'm going to do this for the next 6 days or whatever, right? It's I want to be in this position for the rest of my life, or I want to get to this point so that I can live the rest of my life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's sort of, and so that's the thing, is that over the next, so what I'm looking to do for the month of May is every week, there's going to be Just Talking, which is on Sunday nights. And then on Wednesday night, I'm going to do another hour specific to the topic of the week. So as you know, Just Talking is usually I have a co-host, which I guess Heather has been our co-host today. And Heather, by the way, is another wonderful grief recovery specialist. So, and a death doula, and she's a fabulous healer. And so I'll leave a contact because you're going to be seeing this and she's in it. So there you go. But, half of this is really, so there's going to be, the Wednesday is going to be specific to like, first of all, if you have any questions or anything that you want me to get clearer on, this first Wednesday and the following Wednesday are going to be about body. And that is where I am going to split it down into your heart, your lungs, your muscles, right? We're going to talk about how to take care of your body, because the funniest thing is I can tell you what my heart feels like when it's beating at 100 beats per minute. I can tell you what my heart feels like when it's at 140 beats per minute. So, and as a matter of fact, I remember talking to a medical person and I said, my heart's beating like 100. Like, how many of you, do you know your resting heart rate, Heather?
Yeah, I do. I actually do now, because I've spent the last year with the Fitbit and doing a lot more of that kind of research. So, yeah.
So exactly. So I have a really low resting heart rate. I was like, low 50s when I was exercising. Now I'm low 60s. So, but this isn't a competition, but your resting heart rate is a good indicator. And here's another good indicator. And this is the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about, right? Because fitness really, in my little mind, is that when I'm going and my heart rate's at this, how long does it take it to come down? So how long does it take it? Number one, it's getting breathless, but number two, it's how long does it take to recover? So that's like a recovery speed. And so in the next 2 weeks, it's going to be like that kind of information. What does fitness really look like? Like, there's actually tests. Like one of the ones is, can you sit up from the ground from a cross-legged position? Can you get up without using your hands? That's a flexibility test that you may or may not be able to do. How many times can you sit down and up on a chair? And these were tests that were done to rate people's fitness So that's going to be the next 2 weeks where we're going to talk about things like that. Then we're going to get into the mind. And that is because that's going to be the third week. And everybody knows, well, who knows if it's a wives' tale or not, but 21 days to get a new habit. So what we're doing for the month of May, and by the end of May, you may not know what it is exactly that you want to do with your body for the rest of your life, or how, or you may not be able to answer that why question today. But by the time we get to week 3, we're going to get into mindset. We're going to get into, and it's not about this toxic positivity stuff. You've heard us talk about this on the show before. It's about actually getting it so that you enjoy mundane things. So when you walk through the same place every single day, can you see beauty? So this isn't just about talking gratitude. It's about really embodying what presents mean. I know that some of you guys saw the big, huge tree that I walked into the other day because I was texting somebody on my phone. And that was so funny because it was like, I mean, I was going here and it was like, boom. And I was like, wow. And I mean, this thing was like this thick. It was huge. And that just makes me laugh because I like to take, you know, and the woodpecker. That's why I take my camera. The other day I didn't take my camera and the beaver was out. I've only seen the beaver. This is now twice in 16 years. So they're tricky suckers. So we're going to get into the mind and how to use the mind, right? And then this is really fabulous because the fourth week, the fourth Wednesday is a full moon. And we're going to talk about the spiritual connection, but it's also a full moon. So that's going to be getting rid of the garbage. That's going to be like a release because the full moon is all about releasing. So, you know, the other thing is that I talked to you a little bit at the beginning about when I would go into talk therapy, or, you know, I'd go talk to people when I was going through my crisis, but I would also immediately get a massage, go for a walk, do something physical, because whatever we have, and the fascia that I mentioned before, an osteopath, fabulous, fabulous work, because we store things in our muscles, we store things in our body. And so one of the biggest things about Movement Matters is once we start moving, if you go for a walk every day without anything, and we're going to, you know, without your music, without any other crutch, just go for the sake of walking and just feel what you feel and hear what you hear. You start doing that, things are going to start shifting. Ideas are going to start coming up. And I know you're a grief recovery specialist, Heather. This is the greatest thing for allowing memories or anything. Something might come up that you're not aware of. Maybe it's, you know, we're coming up to Mother's Day and we were talking about this. Mother's Day isn't necessarily always fabulous for everybody, especially as we're all in our 50s and over, that sometimes, you know, our mothers aren't here. So the thing is that doing this kind of stuff can also lead to freeing up grief, freeing up emotional plugs that we're keeping in our body. Because emotionally, energetically, having like hip, knee, ankles is a fear of moving forward. Having shoulder pain is having the weight of the world on our shoulders. So sometimes you end up doing this. So again, when we get into the physical stuff in the next 2 weeks, it's going to be about actually getting in touch with your body. So by the end of this, and by this full moon, hopefully, yes, there's going to be burning stuff because, well, I like burning stuff, but hopefully by the end of this, I'm hoping that you'll keep some sort of journal, some sort of, not a journal like, oh, you know, today I ate whatever, but it's just, I went for my walk today. Something that's keeping track of your movement. You know, I danced for 15 minutes. I watched TV and, you know, every time there was a commercial break, I did a shimmy. Oh my God. So just flipping back to my lovely belly dancing instructor, she said, if you shimmy down, top, both 10 minutes a day, within 30 days, you're going to be tight. Learn how to shimmy. It takes nothing. It doesn't take nothing. I'm lying there. It's tough. It's tough. and you'll be able to, hopefully you'll introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself, and let's just put into the ex-jocks in if there's anybody here, such as myself. I can't, I can't go and join a running group right now because that's not smart. That's not the best place for me where somebody else can have me push past what it is I'm willing to do. And so what May is all about is let's get to know ourselves. Let's get to know who we are, how this flesh suit works. What's the way? How do we look at this and feel about this? And if you can, get your why factor, put it up on, get yourself a little Post-it note and put it in a couple of different places. If you have kids or other people around, see if they're interested in joining you. Not necessarily to crutch so that you have somebody to take you, because one of the most important things here is that and I know this is it may be a bad comparison. When you come to any kind of alcoholic kind of situation, if somebody says, I'm quitting drinking for you, run. Because you have to do this for you. And what does that mean? That means somebody's going to say, hey, eat cheesecake. It's like, no, I got to go for my walk first. So at some point in time, you need to commit to you. You need to commit to saying, no, I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy as possible. And you determine what as healthy as possible means. If it means that you can walk every day for 6 hours, then yeah, you're going to have to at least walk for 1 or 2 hours a day so that your muscles are used to it, your joints are used to it. You have to be able to have good walking shoes, or say you do want to start running. We'll get into that as well, and tips and tricks about that. So that's what I have. So are you up for the challenge? So what do you think, Heather?
Sounds good to me. Yep.
Okay. So again, I'm not technically astute with all this stuff yet, but if you're interested in joining me on the challenge, send me an email, send me a note, or a direct a DM through Facebook, and we'll get this all hooked up. We'll have you also as part of a group, My Life Starts Now group, where you can go in there and you can post. And again, it's not going to be about, oh, I'm going to run. It's the fact that, man, if you got up and you did something for 5 minutes, okay, because that's where it starts. 5 minutes matters, because 5 minutes will become an hour. An hour will become, oh, my hips are moving better. And then all of a sudden you're going to have this energy. And then, I mean, imagine you could be like this, like no caffeine, and this is how I am, right? So no, that's scary, and I don't want to flick that on anybody. But so that's what it is. Thank you very much. And next week we will have Hina joining us as well. And thank you, Heather, for being here this week. I really appreciate your support.
No, thank you. This is great. Looking forward to it.
Woohoo! Okay, let's kick ass, ladies. Okay, so we'll see you on Wednesday, and I'll send out notes to everybody that's interested. And Jenny, give me your feedback. Okay. Love you guys. See you next week, or Wednesday. See you Wednesday. Woo!